It's story time. I'm Sierra Rubin and I'm a starseed. I hope that sharing my story will help you feel less alone if you've experienced anything similar to what I have. If you're an empath, lightworker, or starseed, this channel is the place to be. Every week, I bring you tips, spiritual information, and things you need to know to complete your starseed mission here on Earth. So, subscribe to my channel and make sure to tap that little bell to be notified each week when I post a new video. During my initial spiritual awakening, things opened really quickly for me. I don't know if it's a Gemini sun thing, but once I started diving into spiritual information, it was like I couldn't get enough. I was listening to the radio, I was watching videos, I was reading books, I was reading articles, just anything and everything I could get my hands on. And as a result, I started learning things and understanding things really quickly. I think it was within like 6 months after my initial spiritual awakening, quit my job. I did give them a month's notice. It was a big girl job. I was a director of operations for a chamber of commerce. Imagine that. But I did quit because very quickly I was living a double life and I didn't want to be doing that anymore. Once I quit my job, I had all this spiritual information running around in my head and it was time for healing. So I did a massive amount of healing, what I would call the healing gauntlet that I put myself through. Basically, I spent like 2 months on my couch or in my bed in a sobbing mess. I did a lot of really deep healing work. So the combination of this, learning a lot of new and opening my mind to new spiritual ideas, and then clearing space in my energetic vessel by doing shadow work, created even more space. And I was just more open and apt to consider new ideas. So when the concept of galactic consciousness came into my awareness very early on, I was open to it. It initially trickled on in through an email that I got from a friend. And she, in this email, shared some information that she had received from a spiritual teacher of hers that was connected to some channeled work by Sheldon Needle. Now, I don't necessarily fully resonate or dislike Sheldon Needle's work, but it did bring that idea of galactic consciousness in. And once I started reading and consuming a little bit of that, other galactic type videos started surfacing on YouTube. I started watching Gigi Young, Bridget Nielsen, and just exploring this idea of cosmic consciousness, galactic consciousness, and starseeds for myself. And as I started to do this, I had an amazing experience. I've always been a vivid dreamer, a lucid dreamer even, and as I opened my spiritual abilities and my intuition, this only increased. I don't know if you've ever had a dream like this where you have a dream and it's like the dream is happening exactly where you are sleeping. So most dreams happen in this like alternate dimension type feel place, and there's little vignettes that happen, but these types of experiences, and this one I'm about to share with you, happen within what I would call the in-between. So it's when you fall asleep and then you wake up in the dream right where you fell asleep. So it almost, I don't know if I would say it's more real, but it's definitely an experience that you're having and not just your subconscious exploring itself in the astral like a normal dream would be. Okay, so I call this the lightning activation dream. I was laying on the couch in the middle of my healing gauntlet, as I stated previously. I had been doing some healing work. I'd fallen asleep on the couch and I woke up in a dream in the same place where I fell asleep. And just as suddenly as I realized, oh, I'm in a dream, I think. This like bolt of lightning came from the ceiling, hit me right in the chest and the solar plexus area, and started pulsating through my entire body. It was, I would say, not aggressive, but just very assertive light that was just coursing through my veins and all through my body. My limbs were convulsing, my legs, it's like I had no control over my body, and it was very, very intense. And just as suddenly as the light came into my body, it left my body. And I was totally limp, almost felt like fried a little bit. And I started levitating off of the couch. And I even had the thought, like in the dream, am I levitating? Like, am I doing this? I was levitating and being lifted up into what looked like a silver pool of light on the ceiling. And I was lifted into this pool of light. And as I passed through the ceiling into this pool, I heard the words whispered, Christ light, Christ light. I hadn't even really studied Christ light at this point yet, so that was really interesting to hear. Inside of the pool, it felt really cooling and soothing and beautiful and relaxing. And after a few moments in the pool, I levitated back down to the couch, and I look over and my husband is in the dream, and he's like, the Galactic Federation is here, like it's time, like the ETs are going to start making contact. And I was just like, what are you talking about? That's crazy. So from that experience on, things just got otherworldly weird. Okay, so before I go on, do you want me to make a video where I share indications or ways to know if you're having or have had a Starseed Awakening? Let me know in the comments below, what do you want to know about starseed stuff, and I'd be happy to. So after this experience, I started to get interested in Dolores Cannon's work and learning more about different ET races like the Greys and the Pleiadians and the Sirians, the Arcturians, the Lyrans, the Reptilians, the Mantis beings, just all of these races that different people had claimed to had contact with, either in dreams or in abduction experiences or meditation. I stumbled onto the hybrid children content and really dove into that. I discovered Dr. Stephen Greer, who is I would call a disclosure specialist, as well as a meditation contact specialist. And then the dreams started. It started with weird birth dreams of children that didn't look human, and those dreams were kind of disturbing, but also very emotional, and just started having a lot of really weird birth dreams and dreams about being pregnant, dreams about taking care of babies and breastfeeding babies that didn't look fully human. I started having ET experience dreams. It's in these dreams where I was connecting with ETs, or an ET would come into the dream. It started as just like a small portion of the dream and just a little bit, and then eventually became like entire dreams and entire experiences that seemed like more than a dream, because as I explained earlier, dreams are generally like your subconscious exploring itself in little vignettes in the astral, right? And so some of these experiences were like that at the beginning, but as I expanded and started to deal with my fear around everything and become more comfortable with it, the experiences became like start to finish stories of experiences that I was actually having. It was like I was remembering things that had happened to me and remembering memories that I had forgotten. And then I had an experience while I was awake that was just crazy. I was laying in bed and I had been sleeping. This was after I went and visited Egypt. I had many, many experiences there. If you'd like me to share any of those experiences in videos, please let me know in the comments below. My experiences from a spiritual retreat I went into in Egypt. But anyway, I got back from Egypt and I was laying in bed asleep, and I woke up and just had this feeling of terror all over me. And I felt like I couldn't move, like I was paralyzed, like sleep paralysis almost. And I was so scared, but I really, really had to pee. And so I heard this voice in my mind that I knew to be one of my spirit guides, Sekhmet. Again, if you want me to share, I'll share the Egypt experience in another video. But I was hearing my guide Sekhmet in my head, and she was saying, remember the love. Remember the love that we shared. And it was almost like I started to imagine that my heart chakra was expanding, and the green light that was emanating from my heart chakra was getting bigger and bigger. And as I started to do that and think about how much I loved this being, Sekhmet, this lioness being, or how much I loved cats, because I do love cats. I've always had cats my whole life. As I started to think on that and meditate on that, my body started to relax, and I was able to move and get up and go to the bathroom. So I did, and then I came back to bed and went back to sleep. And I was a little bit freaked out, and funnily enough, one of my cats jumped up onto the bed with me and laid right here on my shoulder. So I was like hugging him as I fell asleep again. The next time I woke up, he was gone and my arm was outstretched. I guess he jumped away, or I don't know, and my arm was outstretched. And I was hearing the strangest music in my mind. It was like very galactic, very cosmic, almost like what you would think like a supercomputer would sound like in one of those futuristic movies from a long time ago. Just not like any music we've ever heard on this planet almost, but still like really beautiful and harmonious. So like my hand is out, my arm is outstretched. I'm just holding my hand here so you guys can see what happened. But I'm hearing this music. And I look over at my hand, and I don't know if you have a Mac or a PC. I have a Mac, but on a Mac, there's this little oscillating, this little turning circle that looks like a rainbow when the Mac is like thinking about something or loading something. And I looked over into my hand, and it was like that rainbow circle was like there. It was like something was loading in my hand. And as soon as this light sank into my hand started to vibrate. Now, it wasn't as intense or like shocking or assertive a vibration as in the initial sort of lightning experience that I described earlier. It was more gentle, but still very powerful. So my hand started to vibrate, and the vibrations moved all the way up my arm and into my chest and solar plexus. So it was like my arms, my chest, my solar plexus area were all humming and vibrating, and it was just beautiful and warm and safe and loving. And then I think it went on for at least a good 45 seconds to a whole minute or maybe longer. I don't know. It was like time was suspended, and then it stopped, and I just intuitively felt like to look into the corner up the room near the ceiling, and I saw these two swirling mists. One was orange, like a light orange color, and the other one was like a light pink. It was like two different beings or consciousnesses that were there. It was like they were saying hello and goodbye, and it was like they were sucked from the room, and then the experience ended. And I remember like when it was all starting, like when I looked over and saw the rainbow in my hand, I like nudged and elbowed my husband, and I was like, babe, like something really weird is happening. And he woke up and he was like, don't be afraid, go back to sleep, and went back to sleep. And I'm just like, okay. You know, like this is happening to me. Like I'm awake. Like this isn't even a dream. Like this is so crazy. So that would be the most intense thing that's ever happened while I was awake. It was almost like it was like another activation or like a healing. And funnily enough, I have this birthmark on my chest, or I had this birthmark on my chest that looked like a little red heart. And my mom has one too. And the next day, I remember being in the shower and looking down and noticing, like, wait a minute, like, that looks different. Like that's a different shape. And it was almost as if the little tiny heart right there had exploded, and it looks like a little butterfly. And instead there are 3 birthmarks, 1, 2, 3, in this shape of a perfect triangle, 3 red dots, and that had never been there before. So it was just like, it was really strange, but like, you know, oddly validating physical evidence, for me at least, that like something happened in this region. And it was symbolized, the triangle is very symbolic and carries a vibration and frequency of its own. So just really, really interesting and otherworldly. So after this, different experiences from my past, weird things, started opening up, like remembering in a childhood experience when I was 10. And I remember being at my uncle's house and being really, really sick and laying there awake for what felt like hours and hours and hours, and desperately wanting to get up and get a drink of water, but for some reason not being able to. It was like I was stuck in some sort of loop, some sort of time loop. So when I went to go have my own hypnosis experience, unfortunately, Dolores Cannon had since passed away, but one of her students and someone that she had done hypnosis on, Barbara Lamb, who actually does lectures and speeches all over the country and possibly all over the world. I'm not sure. She's getting up there in age. She's amazing and wonderful person. So I had a hypnosis experience with her where I went back to that experience when I was 10 years old and basically relived an entire abduction experience that I had being taken onto a ship. If you would like me to share that experience in totality, let me know in the comments below. All of this was just like flooding in the matter of a couple of years. And it was very, very intense and very exciting, very ungrounding as well. After that, I really started to take a step back and decided to take a step back and to integrate everything that I had experienced. Because it's one thing to say, like, okay, like, I'm having these experiences. Ooh, like, I'm a starseed. Okay, great. But, like, what does it actually mean to really accept that you are having interactions and communications with beings from other planets and star systems? Like, to actually accept that that is happening to you and that you are part of something like that. To just be kind of like, oh, that's an interesting idea, to actually accepting that and then integrating, like, what does that mean in my human life right now? What does that mean in my daily life? How should I apply this? What should I do? Like, what do I do? Now that I've experienced these things. So, instead of going into full gatekeeper mode, and if you want to learn about gatekeepers and spiritual teachings gone wrong, you can watch this video or this video. But instead of going into full gatekeeper mode and staying ungrounded, I decided to take a step back to really integrate what had happened and also focus fully on becoming a mother, because I became pregnant with my first child, our first child. I still have experiences to this day in my dreams. Things have been starting to open up a little bit again ever since I've started talking about these things again and reliving some of the experiences that I had, which is natural. As soon as you start to focus on ET stuff, it starts to open up for you and you start to experience more of it. So, some of you guys have commented on my rings and said that you like them, so I want to tell you a little bit about them. This seems like an appropriate video to do so. This is moldavite. So this is a crystal that found our planet. I believe it was on a meteor, and you can find them. They're pretty rare, and their vibration is pretty intense. So when I first got this ring, I actually couldn't really wear it. It was like a little intense to be near this. But I've found that ever since having a couple of those activation experiences and integrating my experiences more and more, I'm able to wear this, and I do so typically when I'm filming my videos. So this is a moldavite crystal. And this is, you always see those like Vesica Pisces or Merkaba or, seed or flower of life rings. And I wanted one of my own, so I went to this store. My husband and I were living on the road for about a year, and we went to this store in Nevada City or Fountain Valley, one of the two, California. And the store is called Cult of Gemini, which is like, hello, I love it. And I'm a Gemini. So I went in and they had a bunch of those rings, like, the different sacred geometries and symbols and stuff. And I looked at this ring and I was like, oh, this one's so interesting. And I asked one of the Geminis, because the two sisters who owned the store were both Geminis, and they were twins. Just everything. And I asked her, what is this? And she was like, oh, those are crop circles. And she kind of had this like, yeah, those are crop circles. Like, I don't know, and I was like, oh my God. Perfect. So that's what it is. This is my Moldavite, my otherworldly crystal, and my crop circle ring. Those are my go-tos for making spiritual videos or when I go and do spiritual work. If you found this video interesting, exciting, or validating, you're gonna love my free quiz. What's your starseed type? Discover the lineage you're most linked to in this life and enter your email to get your free Starseed Mission details video for your unique Starseed type. Click the link in the description below this video to take this super quick quiz now. If you want to learn more about the Starseed Mission, click here. And if you want to liberate yourself from the spiritual protection trap, click here. Thanks so much for watching. I love you today and every day, and I'll talk to you soon.